and I will be.
Oh, apologies. Sorry. Sorry, go.
Oh, can you hear me? Or do you want me to try again?
Yeah. No, it's okay, Faisal, on you go.
Yeah, I mean, I did receive your correspondence, and I'm planning to raise a question to First Minister next week on behalf of you. So all the best and good luck. I'll stay in for a few minutes, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to say hello and salam to everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Faisal. Thank you. Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum to everyone that's joined. Welcome to our first webinar on living donation. And our focus today is on the faith perspectives and living donation. We'll hear from a couple of speakers and we'll have a conversation with Ifra Raza and Jen Lumsden. So I am Bashir Riaz, I'm your chair. I work as policy officer at Kidney Research UK. My job entails working within policy and public affairs within the UK, predominantly within Scotland. I also lead on the Peer Educator project, which is educating South Asian communities, the Sikh, Hindu and Muslim communities on kidney health and disease and organ donation. That's focusing on deceased donation and living donation. This project's been currently running for the 8th year successfully since 2014. As I said, our focus today is on living donation. I'm very grateful to our speakers who are giving up their time today and supporting us today. Just to say, this webinar will be recorded and it will be available on our website, on the Kidney Research UK website. It gives an opportunity for others to listen at their own leisure. And please do follow our Twitter and social media pages for updates on our work and on research, fundraising and policy. So as I said, today, just a short summary of the rundown of what we'll be starting with. We'll have two talks initially with Dr. Samira Bell, who will talk about the importance of kidney health and maintaining good kidney health and chronic kidney disease. Thereafter, we'll have the faith perspective by Sheikh Rizwan Mohammed, and then our two speakers in conversation with Ms. Ifra Raza and Jen Lumsden. And there will also be a chance for Q&A before we close at 8 o'clock. So our first speaker is Dr. Samira Bell, who was appointed as a consultant nephrologist in 9 Wells Hospital, Dundee in 2010. After carrying out both her undergraduate and postgraduate training in Glasgow, she was appointed in 2019 as senior clinical lecturer in the Division of Population Health and Genomics at the University of Dundee, where her main research interest is renal epidemiology. She's currently chair of the Scottish Renal Registry, NHS Research Scotland, and Renal Network Lead. So welcome, Samira.
Go hang with us more often. See, or come in. Thank you.
Thank you. We need to mute.
Yeah, sorry. Apologies.
It's okay. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Can you see that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Just put it on slideshow. Okay. That's great. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to speak. As Bishra said, I'm going to talk about maintaining kidney health in South Asian communities.
There's a thing about kidneys.
So I'm going to start with talking about what the kidneys do and how they function, and then followed by the causes of kidney disease and the commonest causes of kidney disease in the UK.
Oh, apologies, Samira. If I could just make sure that everybody puts themselves on mute when they join, please. Thank you. Apologies, Samira.
That's okay. And then I'll talk a bit about why maintaining kidney health is important. And then I'll touch a bit about issues surrounding kidney health and disease within the South Asian communities of Scotland, what we can do to keep our kidneys healthy. And then I'll talk lastly a little bit about treatment of chronic kidney disease, talking briefly about transplantation and dialysis options. So in terms of function of the kidneys, well, most people are born with 2 kidneys and they play a very important role in the body. So their main role is to produce urine. And so they remove waste products from the blood into the urine, but they also regulate your salt and water intake as well. Other important roles of the kidneys are that they keep your bones healthy by activating vitamin D. but they also clean your blood of medicines as well. So when people have chronic kidney disease, certain medicines may accumulate and they may get side effects from medicines. They play an important role in producing hormones. So the kidneys produce a hormone called erythropoietin, which make red blood cells. And so if you're deficient of this hormone, if you have chronic kidney disease, you can become anemic due to low blood levels. They also regulate your blood pressure as well. And so patients with chronic kidney disease often have high blood pressure as a result. So in terms of causes of chronic kidney disease, the major causes in the UK and in high income countries are diabetes and hypertension. Other causes include cardiovascular disease. So the same condition that can cause narrowing of your vessels in your heart and your brain can also occur in your kidneys as well. There are certain inflammatory causes which are called glomerulonephritis and vasculitis. So this is inflammation of your kidney filters or your kidney vessels. And certain medicines can upset the kidneys as well, such as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. There are inherited kidney diseases, and the commonest one being polycystic kidney disease, which is a kidney disease that causes large cysts in your kidneys and that is passed down from family members. And certain blockages, such as enlarged prostates or prostate cancer, can cause kidney disease as well. So this is a graph taken from the Scottish Renal Registry, which show the causes of kidney disease causing kidney failure in Scotland since 1981. So these are all patients that have kidney failure that need dialysis or a transplant. And so you can see in pink is diabetes. So you can see that the diabetes is increasing as a major cause of kidney failure in Scotland. So why is kidney health important? Well, it's not just the kidneys that are the problem. Patients with kidney disease have a significant risk of cardiovascular events. So if you have chronic kidney disease, you're at high risk of heart attacks and strokes as well. Premature death is 10 times more likely to occur in patients with chronic kidney disease than the need for dialysis. So you can see it's a major factor. And also cardiovascular deaths account for almost half of deaths in patients with advanced kidney failure, stage 4 and 5. And about half of people with stage 4 and 5 will have evidence of cardiovascular disease. So you can see that kidney disease and cardiovascular disease are very closely related. So in terms of kidney disease in South Asians, we know that kidney disease is up to 5 times more common in people from minority ethnic groups. And it's not really entirely clear why this is. We do know that there are higher rates of diabetes and hypertension, particularly in South Asian populations, with type 2 diabetes being up to 6 times more common in people of South Asian origin in the UK. We know that patients with diabetes that are Asian are 10 times more likely to suffer from kidney failure compared to white people with diabetes. So it is really important in Asian, South Asian ethnic groups. So people from South Asian and Black backgrounds are 3 to 5 times more likely to start dialysis than people from Caucasian backgrounds. And they make up almost a quarter of people in the UK that receive kidney replacement therapy. So that means all of people that have a transplant or are on dialysis currently. There are, however, unfortunately, less likely to receive a kidney transplant, particularly a kidney transplant from a living donor. And they wait between 168 and 260 days longer, 62 days longer than Caucasian kidney patients. So that increase in time, because the longer you're on the waiting list, the poorer your quality of life and the more your health deteriorates. So it is a significantly longer period of time. They comprise of 1/3 of people currently waiting for a kidney transplant, but donors from these groups only make up 7.2% of the people on the NHS organ donor register. There are a number of issues in our South Asian populations, and non-compliance is an important issue and non-engagement with health services. And there are a number of reasons for that, and some of them may be partly due to language barrier. There's also limited resources out there about diet, and particularly if patients have diabetes and hypertension as well as CKD, then diet is restricted and it's difficult to know what they are allowed and not allowed to have, especially with different diets from different ethnicities. We know that home therapy, so these are dialysis at home, such as home hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis, is very poorly uptake by South Asians compared to white people. And again, that has important implications on quality of life. More likely to need a transplant, as I've already mentioned, but they're less likely to donate. And so that's an imbalance which needs to be addressed so that we can improve outcomes and transplantation rates in South Asian groups. And as I said, people wait longer on the transplant list, and so that's associated with a poorer quality of life, but also, as I said, the longer you wait on the list, the more deterioration you will get in your health. So in terms of how to keep your kidneys healthy, well, there are a number of things that you can do to keep your kidneys healthy. So reducing your salt intake is important. For the majority of people with normal kidney disease or mild kidney impairment, ensuring that you're rehydrated is important. However, if you have advanced kidney failure and that you're on dialysis, then you may need to restrict your fluid intake. As patients that have kidney failure and on dialysis, some of them don't pass any urine at all, so they have to be careful about how much fluid they take in. Stopping smoking is very important, as I've said, because of the cardiovascular risk. Ensuring that you're active by exercising regularly. Making sure you eat a healthy diet with plenty of fruit and vegetables and reduce your sugar intake. But also keep your weight down as well, as central obesity is associated with worse outcomes as well. So how is chronic kidney disease diagnosed? Well, it's diagnosed by a blood test. And in a blood test, you will get a measure of your serum creatinine level, which will then be able to give us an indication of your glomerular filtration rate. So that's how well your kidneys function. So there are 5 stages of chronic kidney disease, ranging up to 5. And 5 is a severe or end-stage kidney disease, where you have a glomerular filtration rate of less than 15. And that's usually at this point where patients will need to be transplanted or on dialysis. Urine tests are also important, as the detection of of protein in the urine, particularly early on, can indicate the onset of kidney disease. So in terms of treatment of chronic kidney disease, treating the underlying cause is important, and there are specific renal causes, as I've mentioned, the glomerulonephritis and vasculitis, that do have treatments that can slow progression and treat the cause. But a lot of the causes, as I've said, are related to hypertension and diabetes. So controlling blood pressure is important. If your blood pressure is elevated, then it will place strain on the kidneys and it will make the kidney function get worse. Similarly, with diabetic control, if the diabetes is poorly controlled, then that will cause further damage to your kidney. So ensuring tight diabetic control is important. As I mentioned, cardiovascular risk is very important. So usual cardiovascular risk reduction, so cholesterol, weight, healthy living. If kidney failure progresses, then there are various options. So for some patients who are frail and elderly, they may opt that they don't want any dialysis and they may just want to have their symptoms treated, so supportive care. But in other patients, we would want to prepare for transplant first, but also dialysis. So kidney transplant are ideal situation is a preemptive transplant. That means a transplant before requiring dialysis, and the way to achieve this is through a living donor. So this can be a father, a mother, a sibling, a brother, a sister, as I said, or a husband or wife. And then when we move on to the hospital-based treatments like hemodialysis, but hemodialysis is not an easy undertaking. It's 4 hours, 3 times a week in hospital. And peritoneal dialysis is a home-based treatment where you have a tube in your abdomen and you carry out the dialysis yourself, connecting up to a machine overnight at home. You can also have home hemodialysis, where a dialysis machine is plumbed into your house and you're trained to do this. But obviously, transplant is the best option and the preferred option if possible. So in terms of organ donation in South Asian communities, as I've said already, there's a disproportionately low representation from minority communities on the NHS organ donation register. So we need to really try and work to address that and see why this is the case. There is misinformation out there, and I think there's a belief surrounding religious misconceptions, but also cultural misconceptions and poor links for community members. There's also limited discussions of death and organ donation advance directives amongst our communities, and people often feel that they're unable to have these conversations with family members. So in conclusion, if we can detect kidney disease early, it can improve outcomes, and ensuring good control of diabetes and hypertension is really important in preventing the progression of kidney disease. Timely and planned kidney support is important, but also trying to improve our community links and increasing awareness of organ donation amongst our South Asian communities is key, and therefore improving representation of South Asians on the organ donor register. Also encouraging all donors to discuss with their loved ones about their wishes to donate is very important. So thanks again for your time, and thank you for the invitation to speak.
Thank you, Samira. Thanks very much. That was very informative and very interesting, as always, to hear about how to maintain good kidney health. So just conscious of time, so we'll go on to our next speaker, who is Sheikh Rizwan Muhammad. Thank you for joining us today. Sheikh Rizwan Muhammad is a Sunni theologian and scholar, educational director of iSyllabus Islamic Studies Programme, and has advisory roles in numerous initiatives, including the Centre for the Study of Islam and Medicine. He is a regular panellist on the shows such as BBC One's The Big Question, BBC Radio 4's religious analysis programmes, to name a few. He was responsible for drafting the Edinburgh Declaration, which was launched in 2018, on the shared ethical values between Christianity and Islam in the area of finance and wealth creation. Thank you for joining us, Sheikh.
Yeah, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Thank you, Bushra, for inviting me. It's been a long time since we've spoken, but it's a testimony to your work and the work of your team that you've got together with so many people this evening, and the awareness that you're raising for this is actually part and parcel of why, my support and obviously support of other speakers here is with you and your team, because it is something that is a communal obligation, almost a civic obligation, communal obligation, religious obligation to support these types of initiatives. And I've been working with you for a number of years now. And so first and foremost, thanks to yourself for raising the awareness, because without the awareness, you're not able to actually affect changes in policy. So I think while we were just setting up, I don't think anybody who was here, apart from I think 4 or 5 of the speakers, there was this thing of checking the sound, and then Ifra, it's Ifra, isn't it? It's Ifra. She was having a problem with her audio, and then she had to get her brother, who's her technical whiz kid or something, to sort out her audio. And she kind of said, well, he helped me with my audio, my other brother helped me with the kidney. So I don't know if that was the case, but she's got 2 brothers and they're both helpful. One of them provided a kidney. And that's what Samira was talking about, that the people that donate are usually very close to you, and people within your vicinity, within your family. And I think that brings home clearly for everybody that's listening the degree to which this is a human issue. It's about relationships. It's about the fragility of life that sometimes people plays behind the statistics that we have that were eloquently presented just now. The statistics make a very strong case for action, but it's only when you see in front of you an actual case of a situation where life is fragile and there's a need for some kind of intervention and donation, that we make it real. But myself, I've been teaching Islamic studies for a long period of time, and one of the things I do teach is an Islamic studies course, which has been taught up and down the UK in universities and kind of auditoriums. And one of the case studies we do in the course actually is on the topic of organ donation. I think, Bushra, you may have attended the classes and you may know about this, that we actually do a case study on the specific topic of donating organs. Because of the fact that when we set out to present this Islamic studies course, we wanted to address contemporary issues. And one of those that I think there's a lot of misinformation about, and lots of misconceptions, not religious misconceptions, I would say cultural misconceptions, is about organ donations. We looked at it as a case study. And we've been teaching this since 2009. And I think I would say over 4,000 people have done that course. So over 4,000 adults in the UK who are from a Muslim background have sat in those classes and come to know about the religious discussions around organ donation, which is very important. I give this class every year, and I gave it in 2012 in Edinburgh. I remember clearly because it was attended by Professor Hugh Goddard as well from Edinburgh University. He was sitting in the audience when I was teaching this lesson on organ donation. So when I was teaching, I kind of asked the class, what their ideas were about organ donation in Islam. Is it permissible? Is it halal, to use the Arabic word, or not? And Edinburgh's quite a cold. It's not like Glasgow where you have, people love to give and take, in conversation. Edinburgh's quite, I wouldn't say cold. I would say it's kind of reserved. It's kind of affected by the English a bit more, and so nobody spoke. Then one of them put their hand up and said, "Well, I don't have an opinion. I have an experience, which is that I just received a kidney last year." And so I ended up having a conversation with him in front of the class. The class was about 70 people. And then Professor Hugh Goddard in the break, he said, "Well, you don't have to make a religious case for the permissibility of organ donation when you've got somebody there who's alive because of the very fact that he's received a kidney." And I think that comes back to the fact that Islam is quite a simple religion, and the kind of discussions, you can go into lots of details on these kind of things, but it's very important to keep it simple in certain ways, because I think the religious mindset of Islam, the kind of worldview that it has about nature and religion and text and scripture is quite simple, because in Arabic we have this word in which we express, the Quranic text is the revelation of God for Muslims. And the way that we understand it is through a process that is in Arabic, it's called tafsira. Tafsira in Arabic means literally to explain something. But the Bedouin Arabs, and I don't want to go back to too much past history, but the Bedouin Arabs used to have this kind of whole medical setup where, interestingly enough, they used to take urine samples, and they used to go to this hakim, which is kind of this doctor, and they would present a urine sample, and then they would hold it up to the sunlight, and they would be able to tell certain things about the imbalances in the person's diet or or certain underlying conditions within the person's health, and they would prescribe certain herbs that would help them. And it's quite interesting when you talk about kidney and dialysis and donations, that there is a kind of synergy with the way that Islam looks at things, which is that you look at things and you analyze them and you study them and you come up with a way that you can provide solutions. And that's something that's very, very clear in this specific situation. So things like health is something that's very much part and parcel of the religious tradition. Myself and some of my colleagues, well, I've co-authored these papers on Ramadan and health and fasting, especially for people that have underlying health issues. And there is this very clear strand within Islam that teaches people to take care of their health, preserve their health, because essentially it's a type of what we call amana, which is kind of a trust that we're given by God. But it's interesting that, since the 1960s, since organ donations have become an issue, possible through medical advancement, that scholars have always talked about this topic. They've always looked at it. And initially the kind of discussions were about the fact that, it is permissible, and this is why. And this was always the way that, since the 60s, some of my own teachers and teachers of my teachers have authored books on this topic. And by and large, there's been very little dissension on this topic, interesting enough. If you do look at the literature in terms of percentile, if you take 100 books, you would say that perhaps 90% of those books would be written in favor of organ donation. And the others would be non-committal, but not, vehemently against. And so it's based upon simple principles that everybody can understand. That's preventing harm from people, altruism, which is helping other people that require your help. And I think the current Islamic position of authors, even in the UK, is now not about whether it's permissible or not. It's the degree to which you can, I think, promote actively the carrying of, something like an organ donation card, for example. And I think that is what, work that Bushra is doing and her team are doing is very important, because you need to speak about these things. So you raise the awareness and you start to discuss people's misconceptions about this, and you address cultural misconceptions about this, which are mostly the reason why people, take a step back from these, kind of steps of raising awareness and taking part in these. And I think addressing the misinformation is probably the most important task of people who feel that this is a very important, topic, because if you look at people that, for whatever reason, it's a test and trial from God, as Muslims would believe, and it's an experience of a human being, and we view life, essentially as a long existence. The soul has a long existence. Your worldly life is part of that existence, and part of that existence is to either be in tribulation or difficulty, or to help somebody in tribulation or difficulty. And you see the situation in Ukraine, for example. There's two things happening. One is the war, and then the other thing is the people trying to aid people who are in a war situation. So everybody's involved in some way. And so it's the same with medicine. There's a doctor, there's a patient, and there's the people around the doctor and the patient, and everybody has to do their best to be able to help in any way that they can. And I think that is where I think religious voices need to be much more clear in terms of what is permissible. And I've held a organ donation card for, the first lesson I taught on this topic, which was in 2009. From that time, I've actively, carried a card and showed people that I carried a card, because the fact that makes such an important statement. And I think, this kind of event is really about people like Ifra, kind of telling people about their experiences. And I think that says much more than, anything that I could say, because essentially when you're hearing that story, there's not much you need to do in terms of saying whether it's permissible or not. I know lots of people, and I know this, I can picture these people clearly, who have told me that it's not permissible to donate organs and then have received organs. And so that's the case. You can't say you cannot receive them, and then you're in a hospital and I come and visit you and wish you health, and you've received an organ. And so that shows the fact that, words have consequences. And I think people need to be very, very clear about the fact that, there is a very, very strong case now, I think, in terms of Islamic faith, in terms of the permissibility of this, not just the permissibility, but also the obligation of promoting and raising the awareness of this topic, inshallah. So Jazakallah, thank you, Bushra, and the team for your invite.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. That was very interesting, as always. Short time, and I'm sure we could listen to much more of the discussion on organ donation, but just conscious of time, so I will introduce the next two speakers. Oh, apologies. So our next speakers are Ifra Raza and Jane Lamsoon. Ifra Raza is born and bred in Glasgow and a qualified optometrist. Ifra had acute kidney failure at 11 years old, and her first living donor transplant at the age of 13 from her maternal uncle. After 17 years, unfortunately, her kidney failed and she had to undergo her second transplant, and that was donated to her by her younger brother, Adil. As Sheikh said, her brother is was of use, and he donated his kidney to her in September 2020, at the time when we were in a pandemic. She also runs a successful small food business called Chat Me Up, which is a small food business distributing to weddings and private functions in and around Glasgow, Edinburgh and surrounding areas. And also Jen Lumsden, who we also will be hearing from, is a registered nurse and has been a transplant coordinator since 1997. Jen completed her PhD with the University of Edinburgh with nurse-led research into quality of life issues in living donor kidney transplantation in 2006. She has specialised in this field for the past 25 years and has been also working with the Scottish Government to raise awareness and to improve equity of access to information in Scotland about living donor transplantation. So welcome Jane and welcome Ifra. So I will start with Ifra. What we'll do is I'm just going to share a small short video about Ifra, and then Ifra will introduce herself. So I'm just going to just give me 1 second. I will share this video.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you.
5,000, so 5 years.
And if you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me, like 1, 2, 3, and I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you, like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. If you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me.
So it's quite an emotional. Oh, apologies. Okay, so I'll hand over to Ifra if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yep. So can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Ifra. As you saw from the video, that was my younger brother Deal, mashallah, who gave me his kidney in 2020. That was my second kidney transplant actually. My first one was when I was 13. I think I first got introduced to kidney, all things kidney related, when I was 11. So very young, had absolutely no idea what all this was about. I was very healthy, was never ill prior to becoming ill, and it all happened all of a sudden. I think as Samira was discussing as well, that it's picked up through a blood test. So I, as a 11-year-old, had all these symptoms, and I think I was back and forth to the doctors a good few times in a week with every symptom under the sun you can think of, feeling so unwell. But they just kept on thinking it was something else. I think initially it was migraines and then stomach bug and viral infection. Because of my age, no one ever thought to check my blood pressure, number one, or do the blood test. And those two things would have picked up that my kidneys were slowly failing. So I think initially, like, they must have been failing for a little while, but you don't really get any symptoms until it gets too late. So I completely healthy, very active, was quite sporty, in fact, played a lot of sports, so you would never ever think there was anything wrong. But obviously as I got to a certain point where the kidneys just couldn't take the strain anymore. So at that time it was critical because it was too late. It was picked up and they were just suddenly failed. It was kind of life support, ended up having a cardiac arrest and a coma. And I think the family just said that, you know, it's they said, come and say your goodbyes. Unfortunately, there's nothing more you can do. It was at that stage, it was that late. And then we just, alhamdulillah, through everybody's du'as, managed to pull through. And at that time, I had to have both my kidneys removed. So I actually had no kidneys at all for 2 whole years while I did dialysis. And I've had both types of dialysis. And that was my uncle who obviously set the standard, set the bar high, and very different at that time because I was a kid, so I didn't really have much say in things. It was all the discussions were with my parents, and then that went really well, and they just lived a normal life. You know, went to uni, studied, travelled, didn't really do much different. This time round was completely different. I mean, we had a little bit more insight into what to expect, but it still came as quite a shock. I think when the kidney started failing, it was just, I knew a little bit more about it. I knew the types of dialysis, so I knew which one I wanted to have. Luckily, I was able to have that one because some people don't have a choice. It depends on various factors. And my brother came forward this time, so I'm very, very grateful to come from such a loving and amazing family, amazing supportive family. Do you have a question for me, Sarah Jen?
I do. Thank you very much. That is just such a moving video, and your story really, you know, you tell it so well about what a journey you've been on. Can I just ask, so when that time when your brother came forward, how easy or difficult was it for you to raise the subject of living donation within your family? Because I think that's something that people can struggle with when you're a recipient.
Very difficult. To be honest, this is the thing, there's people don't realise there's so much goes through your head. I didn't ask anybody. I couldn't. I never did. I actually hid it from my family for quite a while because I was like, you know, I still feel okay. My symptoms aren't too bad. I don't want the family to worry. And my mum, she becomes unwell sometimes through stress and stuff. So we kept it from her. But I told my brothers, I'm really close to my brothers, and I told them, I was like, look, this is what's happening. I'm going to need a transplant sooner than another transplant sooner than expected. And that's it. I just told them so somebody in the family would know. But I just kind of carried on, and we're like, okay, let's see how things go. But they immediately came forward. The first thing they said was, what can we do to help? It was me. I was like, no, nothing, just leave it. Like, I don't want you to do anything. And the more and more, like, I eventually kind of started telling people. I was very surprised that a lot of people themselves came forward. But when it came to my brothers, it was really difficult because you kind of, so much goes through your head. It's like you feel, do they feel pressurized because they're related to you? You know, do they feel like they're under some obligation that this is I need to do this? Are they under pressure? And it was, like I said, it actually took quite a lot of convincing. I tried to put them off for a long time. I was like, nah, I don't want you to do it. I don't want you to go through all that. Even though I knew it was safe, like, you know, I've seen my uncle, I've seen how he is now, but still, it's just, you just don't want people to go through that for you.
And so how do you think the rest of the family felt about, you know, because, you know, sometimes, you know, because the whole family is involved, especially when they're, you know, brothers and sisters both going for an operation at the same time.
Yeah. I think that was really difficult because it was during COVID, of course, so everything was completely different. So we weren't allowed any visitors. It was actually it was a short period of time where things opened up again. And then, like, after the transplant, we went back into lockdown like a week later, 2 weeks later, I think. So it was very difficult. I mean, I think the day of the operation is something, put it this way, I'm glad I was on that side and not at home with everyone else, because it just sounded like the worst day ever, because you're waiting to hear how Adil, my brother, is doing. And then once you've heard from him, like, okay, thank God he's okay. Then, oh wait, we've not heard from Ifrit. Now it's her part. Is the kidney going to work? So the day itself is very difficult, but leading up to that is also very difficult, because I think they see you going through so much, and the thing is, when it comes to dialysis, it's very difficult. It's restrictive, it's tiring, but you don't want to like worry others. You put on a brave face and you try and do as much as you can, but then you try and do certain things, and physically your body's just like, I can't do this, I need some rest. And they see you struggling, they see you trying to put on a brave face, they want to help. And I think it mentally, emotionally, it's very difficult for everybody, because it's one of those things like you want to talk about it, but then you're like, I don't always want to talk about depressing stuff and how much I'm struggling. So then it's like, I'll just keep it to myself. But I think luckily I had a very good support system, and family, friends, everybody was just amazing.
That's it. And how did you feel? I think for a recipient, once you've accepted the fact that your brother is, wanting to donate, because that's in itself is a journey. And then when he was going through the test, because you probably remember this more with your brother than with your uncle, and that's always a bit of a roller coaster, because when the test results are coming through, at any point in that process, it can be said, well, actually, it's maybe not the right thing for you to donate. So how did it feel when you both got the okay to go ahead? Because that's sometimes the time of actually this is going to happen. Yeah, you're spot on. Very, very emotional. The whole way, I think it's interesting because we didn't speak about it too much. Like I obviously, this is the second time I've done it, so I am like used to getting bloods done. I'm used to doing all these things. He's not, like, thank God, he's a fit, young, healthy guy. So I know what he's like when he gets like bloods done, when he gets tests done, and he's not the best with it, to put it nicely. But it's really difficult because I was trying to, obviously, I was very involved in all the tests. I was obviously asking questions, seeing what he's doing. But we kind of, it's weird because we kind of stayed disconnected, because we know, like, you don't know the person's a match till the very end. Like, you can go through all these tests, okay, things are going okay. He had to actually go through some extra tests as well, because there was a point where we didn't think he'd be able to do it. So at the very end, when we're like, okay, all the tests are fine, we've got a few other things to do. There's like we had to speak to independent advisors, to make sure he's not getting forced into it. And there's so many aspects of it. So at the very end, we're like, okay, this is happening. And it's weird because you don't really emotionally get to prepare for it, because you don't know if it's going to happen or not. So during the whole testing procedure, you're like, maybe not. And at the same time, I'm still like, oh, I don't know if I want him to do it. So it was really, really emotional. I can't, like, there's nothing you can say, because he was like, throughout the whole thing, like, brave guy, just so like, nope, I'm doing this, very adamant. So yeah, it was I can't even explain. Yeah, I think we hear quite often the donor saying it's much easier for me. I made a decision. This is what I'm going to do. And especially if it's a family member or a close friend, or it's just like, this is what I'm going to do. And we need to think of the recipient who has all these conversations going on round about. And we see a lot now, especially since the law changed in 2006. We have altruistic donors coming forward who give to a complete stranger, and they start off kidney chains for pairs who are not compatible. So we've got lots of different options for people now to make sure that living donation can happen. But for every person who donates, who's going through that process, it's for the recipient and the rest of the family, because I'm sure. So, with having kidney disease, it doesn't just affect the person; it affects your whole family and your family life as well. What were the main differences you found from living life on dialysis? You've touched on some already, and living life with a transplant. What were your main? Yeah, so this time around, like I said, the first time when I was a kid, I had the hospital version initially, the hemodialysis. So that was that's completely different. That you have to, about 4 hours, 4 hours, 3 or 4 times a week, you have to go into hospital and get that done. And for me, that was it's very aggressive. If my whole day was gone, felt so weak, couldn't do anything. So this time around, I was like, I'm not doing that. If I can do the other type, I'll do that. So the idea was to do the dialysis overnight. And it was for 9 hours every single night.
But the thing is, like that 9 hours, if you're doing anything the next day, you have to make sure you schedule it so you're off in time. So your day is planned around that. Like, you know, not many people nowadays manage to get 9 hours sleep. So you'll be in bed before, like, you know, and it's really hard to sleep on it as well, because there's parts of it which are quite painful and just not very comfortable. So that's difficult, that's restrictive. Then you're on a fluid restriction. So I was on 600 ml a day. So you probably remember the 500 ml bottles that you get, like most people, you know, most drinks are 500 ml. So just imagine a little bit more than that. So that's all I could have in one day. And that's including having, you saw in the video, all the tablets. So you got like 20 plus tablets a day. And then you still, you know, the dialysis is only really doing 10 to 15% function. So it's getting you by, but it's getting you by just. It's a form. I think what people don't realize is dialysis is a form of life support. If you literally stop dialysis, you won't live. So it's quite difficult. Post transplant, like they honestly that you don't realize how ill you were. Because the smallest tasks used to absolutely floor me. Like, you know, things like just going up the stairs, things like sounds so mundane, brushing your teeth. That used to tire me out like so much. So I used to really, really have to pace myself and watch what I did. Not just food restrictions, but I had dietary restrictions. There's so many things that I wasn't allowed to eat. And I can be quite stubborn, so I'll chance it anyway. So I did. There were certain things I was like, oh, it can't be that bad, and then I ate it, and I always learned the hard way. I'd feel so ill after. Whereas post transplant, no food, no dietary restrictions. You know, drink loads. Your energy levels are so much higher. There's literally no more restrictions. I've been on a couple of holidays, and the only thing is that you're on some steroids, so you do gain a bit of weight with that. So you need to work a little bit harder to try and lose that. But obviously it's just part of the treatment. You can deal with that.
That's great. And just we're getting a bit short of time, but just two quick questions.
Yep.
How's your brother?
He's good. Yeah, he's doing really well. He's actually here. Do you want me to call him?
Go and get him to come and
I'll
come and say hello.
He's doing really well. He really looked after himself. Sorry, I'm just gonna. Yeah. He came around for dinner, so I made him dinner. So
I think everybody will want to see him.
Yeah. I'll get him in just now. No, he's doing great. He was back to driving, back to gym. Pop inside.
What do you think we can do to overcome the barriers that for people to talk about? Oh, is he just coming in?
Yeah.
Here he is. We've been hearing all about you. How are you?
The hero himself. Oh, I've got the earphones in.
Oh, of course, yes. Thanks so much for coming unprompted to the camera. We've just been hearing your story, and just, you know, it's just such a powerful story. You're just seeing the two of you and what a difference that you make. And are you fine now? You're feeling?
Yeah, I can't say I forget yet. I've got only one kidney. I'm very different. Obviously, the 12 weeks of recovery was difficult, but I think literally as soon as the 12 weeks hit, I was like, all right, okay, back to it. Let's go gym, let's play football, let's do what I can.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, thank you so much. That's really good of you to come forward. Thank you.
He doesn't need to top up his makeup or anything like that. He's naturally very.
No, he's did brilliantly. So, and just what can we do to, you know, for people who are approaching end stage kidney failure? How can we support people to discuss with family, friends, social groups? You know, how can we overcome some of these barriers?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Like I said, it's, as you already touched upon this, it's harder on the person who needs the kidney to bring up these. It's a very awkward kind of conversation to have, because you think bringing these things up, you don't want to put anyone under pressure. But the thing is, I think people surprise you. It's one of those things that with anything, you don't know until you try. So if you bring up these conversations and say, and you know what, let them, if they want to come forward, they probably do that themselves. You're not gonna have to ask, and what happened
Yeah.
with myself. So I think it's literally just talking about it in general, letting them know your situation, and obviously just discussing obviously how safe. I mean, I was obviously very scared, but I knew the whole process was safe. I knew at any point if there was any concern, they would stop. I knew he could back out at any point. So I was very I knew what was happening. But as I said, I'm fully aware that it's not normal to come from such an amazing family who, you know, I've got 2 of my family members, running out of family members now. Hopefully that's the last one.
Absolutely. No, that's thank you so much for sharing your story. I think, you know, it's always so powerful and we very much appreciate it. But I realise that we now only have 8 minutes left for questions. So I better hand back to Bushra and open for questions. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks, Ifra. As always, such a powerful and amazing story every time I read it, hear about it. But yes, thank you. So like we said, we've only got 8 minutes left and we would like to open the floor to any questions that we have to any of the speakers. Samira, Sheikh Swan, Jen or Ifra. So please just either raise your hand on Zoom or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. All goes quiet.
Can I ask Ifra a question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Ifra, that was amazing. It was really,
Thank you.
it was really great to hear your story and articulated so beautifully. How did your parents feel about your brother donating a kidney? Because that's one of the things that I think would be quite difficult.
Yeah, I think to be honest, they were really proud. It wasn't, I've got 2 brothers, so both of them actually came forward. And like I said, because this is the second time round, it's a bit easier because we've got the best example in my uncle. My uncle, like now, he's very fit, he's active, he's got 2 kids. So we see no change in his normal day-to-day life. So from seeing that helped massively. Obviously, everybody has their concerns, like naturally, but they were more proud than anything. The fact that he didn't hesitate and they just kind of straight away offered.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Could I ask, just looking into the panel, what other ways we can overcome barriers about discussing living donation in faith groups? Is there just raising awareness? Is there any routes that we can, any tools that we can use to raise awareness of both deceased organ donation but living donation as well?
Yeah, I'll
pass that on to Sheikh.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is speaking about it. I think what Ifra mentioned about, she felt reluctant to raise the question and just to kind of put that discussion out there. It's very obviously, it's a very human discussion. So in those kind of situations, you want somebody else doing that for you. I mean, that's the whole point of living in a society where you have people that perhaps have the ability to have their words heard in a way that other people aren't. It naturalizes and normalizes discussion, and it creates a situation where if a discussion does come up about, if somebody knows that there's a person who's affected by a specific medical condition and there is the possibility of that person receiving a donation of an organ, then it should be natural for people to come forward, either from family or friends or just out of that sense of altruism of just giving somebody the gift. That gift essentially is a gift, isn't it? You can see that from Ifra and her brother. That is, you get gifts. So my son had a birthday this month and he was asked for so many different things. He's 4 years old, or is he 5? I'm not sure. The thing is, he can ask for a lot of things, but when I see him with my daughters and the love and the kind of connection they have, those are just things that come and go. But I think religious scholars need to make a point of raising these kind of questions in their sermons, but they also need to be, present in the kind of discussions that we're having this evening, where there's people watching and there'll be people watching the recording of it as well. And it's just a critical mass where that discussion takes place. so that even the fact that you're carrying a donation card is going to be part and parcel of that process, where people not only have it and they've hidden it in their wallet, but it's actually something that they tell people about, and they show people that, look, this is me, and I've got this card, and the reason I've got it is because I think it's almost, it's part of being human, as part of being a Muslim to have it, and part of being Jewish and other faith traditions to have it, because you see the effect of that. You see the human benefit of, you know, repulsing some kind of harm. And I think it comes to a deeper point, isn't it? It's about being human. Is you really you kind of value yourself more when you see that you have value in the eyes of other people by being able to give them something that perhaps you're taking for granted. And so those kind of things need to be spoken about much more in every single situation, I think. And I think in that context, obviously, the medical fraternity and doctors and nurses, they need to, you know, also be able to have access to those kind of communities. You know, that's very important, I think, as well, to be able to make that case and just make that practical case. The fact that, you know, a person who donates is now living a very natural, normal life. And it's not this kind of thing where, well, I heard that somebody said, or I think, or, you know, it's based upon the fact that this is not essentially a procedure which is, you know, clouded in some kind of mystery. It's something that we know about, and people go into hospital for operations all the time. So I think we need to make it, to get it to the point where it becomes a natural process.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sheikh. And I do agree. This is why the work that we do. And again, I thank everybody that joined today, and I thank the speakers as well. And again, you know, we will continue on with our awareness and the work that we do to raise awareness of such an important aspect of health, and especially within the ethnic minority communities. As we all know, it's a topic that many feel is a taboo topic, but it does need to be discussed. I think if there is no other questions, I think we are. Yep, I think, yep, if there's any other questions, but please, like I said, if there are any other questions, you can contact me. My contact number and details are on the poster. Or if there's any questions to the speakers that you don't think of now and you think of afterwards, then please do email as well. But thank you to everyone again for joining, for spending the time with ourselves. And again, this will be on, it's recorded and will be on the website, and I can email you the link thereafter. So thank you, and I will leave you all then. Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Bushra. Thank you.
Thanks then. Thank you.